Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My girlfriend is furious that I gave money to my mother instead of paying her college debt. After that, entitled mother belittles me for not allowing her kid to sit in on a university class. And after that, am I the jerk for getting upset with my best friend's son for giving my son cake? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen has to pay her own college debt. Your mom goes to college? So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My girlfriend is furious that I gave money to my mother instead of paying for her college debt. I'm 26, male, and my mom, who's 54, has always been insecure about her body. My mom isn't ugly by any means, she's beautiful in my eyes. But my mom recently had told me that she was considering plastic surgery for a long time, but couldn't because she had to prioritize her money on raising me. She didn't ask me for money or anything. I asked her if she was sure about it. She said she was. So I got a full-ride scholarship to college, and I'm pretty financially stable myself, so I thought it would be nice if I paid for it. My mom said it wasn't necessary, but I insisted because I wanted to do something nice for her. My mom got implants and a facelift, and I paid for it fully. She said she was really grateful and thanked me. Honestly, I was really happy for her because it gave her self-esteem a boost that she needed. She was very happy as well, and everything was fine. But when my girlfriend got to know about this, she was upset. She told me I should have let her know before I decided to do anything. She told me she couldn't believe I wasted my money on something like that. She said it was unfair and that I could have used it to help her pay off her college debt, which would have been more useful. I tried to explain it to her, but she didn't listen and called my mom fake and told me she needs to get over her insecurities. Most of my friends also took my girlfriend's side on this one and said that helping my girlfriend pay off her college debt is a lot more important than my mom's plastic surgery and are calling me a jerk. I'm not sure if I did something wrong here. I don't see what was wrong with paying for my mom's plastic surgery. It helped her get over her insecurities, and I'm really happy about it because she's feeling better now. So my question is, am I the jerk for this? Thanks. Edit. For answers to some common questions, my girlfriend and I have been together for over a year now, and we decided to move in together a few months ago. Also, I don't share a joint account with my girlfriend or anything, but she thinks I should have helped her pay off her college debt because I am financially doing better than she is. Not the jerk, but your girlfriend sure is. She's upset she didn't get a fat paycheck from you instead of you doing something nice for your mom. Right? That's some next level entitlement on the girlfriend's part. The fact that the friends agree is also problematic. Not the jerk. Unless you're married and this was money from a joint bank account, your girlfriend has absolutely no claim to it. You can use it to help your mom, and you don't owe your girlfriend any explanation and certainly not consultation. ETA. And your girlfriend expecting you to pay her student loan is a major red flag. Your mom probably paid a bunch while raising you. Your girlfriend expects to collect and have you pay her loans just because she's pretty? Major red flags. Everyone sucks here. Financial details are vague. I'd like to assume you're so well off at 26 that this doesn't affect you financially at all, but I doubt it. Considering your financial vagueness, if you're in what you would consider a serious relationship, you discuss big financial moves before making them. It wasn't your girlfriend's main talking point, but you can't trust a partner that makes rash decisions with money if you're planning goals together for the future. Your girlfriend is entitled to say that your money could have gone towards her loans. She took out the loans. You've been together a year. You're not married. Even once you are married, that doesn't mean all your savings go towards her debt. You are not obligated to that, and I would have a sit-down discussion about how she plans on handling her loans down the line. She's right that your mom is insecure though. It's a waste of money for temporary shallow happiness. In a few years, she'll cower against that insecurity yet again until she faces it and undoes the years of beauty product brainwashing. You're the jerk. Those surgeries you mentioned are expensive, like really expensive, and you and your girlfriend live together. Sure, you each have your own separate accounts, but are you planning on getting a nice place with her, starting a family one day, etc.? If you are, then money becomes more of a joint thing. Maybe she's just upset because she feels like you're jeopardizing your future together for your mom's surgery. If you do stay with this girl, I'd say get married, but I know not everyone believes in marriage. Then you have to recognize that partners should be a team, and you should consult your significant other before spending $20,000 to $30,000. I'd be upset too. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. Pro tip: when someone gets upset with you for not paying their student loans, break up with them. Entitled mother belittles me for not allowing her kid to sit in on a university class. I'm a musical theater student at a pretty prestigious performing arts university, and to help pay for my course, alongside that I work part-time in retail. We have a lot to learn, and I normally work more than is actually required of me. And so, after asking permission from my manager, I take a folder with me to work. This contains scripts, song lyrics, etc., so I can study them when there's a lull in customers. I put the name of my school on the front of my folder as well as mine, because whilst I leave it on public transport, people probably won't know my name. They probably will know that of the schools and could come and drop it off. Now we're done with that. I can move on to the actual story. I was working the registers today, and it was reasonably quiet for the first half of my shift, so I had my folder out to work on a script. Normally, the folder is in my bag, but when I catch a break, I take it out. However, I was called into the stock room, and as it was quiet, I just tucked my folder away and went to see what was up. I was only away for a few minutes, but like it often does, those few minutes, everyone decided they wanted to pay. Our location is understaffed at the best of times, so nobody could take my place, and if they could, I knew I wouldn't be away for long, so I left my register unguarded. I returned to the discovery that my precious folder was nowhere to be seen. I panic, and whilst trying to serve the customer, who has probably been waiting long enough, I look around and down the line to see if I can spot anyone who looks like they have it. Enter entitled mom and her similarly entitled kid. She looks nice enough from first glance, standing near the back of the line, probably glad that her kid, who couldn't have been over 12, was finally quiet, even if it was with the use of my folder of scripts. There was nothing in there that could have been that harmful, so I decided not to make a scene and instead wait for her to be leaving and grab her on the way out. My plan works well, and as she's about to leave, I pull her and the kid to the side. I asked the kid politely if they could give it back to me, as I need it for school. They refused. Entitled mom got mad that I had even requested to have my own property back, saying that if it was that important, I shouldn't have left it out for anyone to take. My patience is already wearing thin with this lady. I tell her that it's common etiquette not to take things from a place you shouldn't even be touching. She argues back that her kid doesn't even know better. I'm done at this point and tell her, using one of my last threads of calmness, to give me back my folder. I've been in retail for 6 months now. I know how entitled some people can be, but I was not expecting what came out of this lady's mouth next. Fine, but we'll need compensation. You go to a good school, don't you? Well then, my kid is a budding actor. Let them sit in on a class to gain some skills. Okay, this is where my patience was snapping. I tell her, in simple, slow words, that I do not own the course, I only attend it. I can't control who gets to see what goes on, and if I did, I would definitely not let her kid in, seeing how they treat other people's belongings. She scoffed, started to leave while saying something about me clearly not caring enough about my future to even consider it, as her darling was going to be a star. How could I be so rude? And then I properly snapped, suddenly coming up with my last idea to save my folder. I mean, I only don't want them to have it because there's some stuff in there that's not really for kids, you know? The look that passed onto her face was priceless as she snatched the folder from the kid, threw it at my feet, and stormed out, muttering something about unacceptable behavior, and of course, the dreaded, I will be speaking to your manager. All in all, it was an experience I don't think I'll forget for a while. Pro tip: whenever a parent with their child says, they're just a kid, they don't know any better, you look at them and say, yes, but you do, right? Am I the jerk for getting upset with my best friend's son for giving my son cake? My son is 8 years old and recently attended his friend's 8th birthday party. This friend is my best friend's son. I don't let my son have any junk food at all, and usually he brings his own snacks. For this incident, it was carrot sticks and ranch, to events that have a lot of sugary foods. My best friend bakes a lot and made a special chocolate cake for her son's birthday. When it comes to my son, I don't let him have cake. This is a personal preference for his health, not for any allergy reasons, and he is not diabetic or gluten-free. My son knows he isn't allowed to have cake because of the additives. When he told his best friend at this party, his friend apparently got upset and told him it was good cake. Not bad, like I say, because his mom made it, and it was his birthday cake. My son ate cake, got a sugar rush, and crashed, making him cranky for the rest of the day after we left the party. I told my friend she needs to have some kind of consequences for her son to teach him not to peer pressure other kids into eating things they're not allowed to have. She said because it wasn't an issue of allergies or health, that she's sorry my son was cranky, but she won't be punishing her son or talking to him about it on his birthday. She also says she'll just watch him more closely and make sure that her husband does in the future, as well as have a chat with him on another day about respecting food habits. I love my friend, but historically, her and her husband have always said yes to their son and not given him any consequences for anything. Both of us were present at the party and did not see them sharing the cake. They were outside eating it in the backyard with their fathers and some other parents supervising while we cleaned up. So it's not an issue of anyone going behind anyone's back, just teaching kids boundaries and respect. I let my son stay for the rest of the party and be with his friend, so it's not like I ruined the day. Am I the jerk for being upset with my friend's son and the fact that she won't punish him for pressuring my son into eating cake? God forbid your son experience a moment of joy and celebration. You're the jerk. For your information, sugar rushes are a myth. They've been debunked many times by scientists and medical professionals. That your son was irritable for the rest of the day was likely because, having had fun at a friend's birthday party, you crapped all over his enjoyment of the party with your ridiculous attitude and over-the-top indictment of the whole party. I can only imagine your son's embarrassment at you having the utter gall to demand consequences for a kid on his birthday who shared his cake with your son, who, by your own admission, has no health issues that would be affected by said cake. It wasn't the cake that made your son irritable, it was you. I seriously doubt that you being declared the jerk in this will in any way soften your views on such things. It's perfectly fine to want to make sure that your kid eats nutritiously. You also shouldn't be a jerk about it. In fact, the more you try to exert such iron control over it, the higher the likelihood you will drive your son straight into an eating disorder. There isn't a doubt in my mind that your son has a stash of candy at various places because of you. Be fair. He might not have them yet. 8-year-olds are often very obedient. Give him 5 to 8 years though, and that kid is going to be an absolute sugar fiend. Yup, ask any kid that was denied sugar by parents. What did they do immediately after being in charge of their own food? Pick all the marshmallows out of the sugar cereal they weren't even allowed to eat before, and just eat them like I did. My older sister was given whatever cereal she wanted growing up and hates sugar cereal now. She is much older. This kid will rebel when they are able, and later might even cut mom off entirely if this is not the only area of control she's crazy about, and I'm willing to bet it's not. OP, you're the jerk. Loosen up or lose your kid at 18. Absolutely. There's no difference than the kids who grow up with super strict parents and then go absolutely wild when they go to college and get a little taste of freedom. OP is setting up her kid to blow right through the freshman 15 in his first term, let alone year of college. I can personally confirm this. As soon as I moved out, I started to eat everything sugary and fatty that I wasn't allowed when I was younger, which, looking at it now, was detrimental to both my physical and mental health. So yeah, OP, you're the jerk. Stop this now before you lose your son. Why are you so worried about one piece of cake? It's a homemade cake, so no additives. And there are no other health reasons for eating a little cake for affect his health. Yes, eating a lot of sugar and fat leads to health issues, but this was a single piece of cake on his friend's special day. I understand your concerns about nutritious food, but it seems like you're being a jerk about it. Here's the thing. It was never about being able to eat cake. It was so much more than that. Having all your food controlled to the slightest bit, missed out on a central part of birthday fun every year, and now being stripped of that joy with normalcy the moment he let himself enjoy it, which is exactly why you did ruin the day for him. You know what? This is the most likely path to eating disorders you could have chosen for your son. From personal experience, making any food 100% off limits will only lead to an unhealthy relationship with that food and food in general. Even now, it's more than likely he's going behind your back for sweets. He's 8. He isn't old enough to make all decisions for himself, sure, but at least give him some agency. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. I'm so glad my parents weren't health nuts. Won't honor the contract? Fine. Hope you like hot pink duct tape. Many years ago, I was an elected union president at a Fortune 500 company, but I was only in charge of one contracted group. As such, the bargaining power of the main company was much higher than my own, but even they couldn't intervene too much. My group's contract switched from Company A to Company B in 2012, but the contract remained unchanged. Company B inherited all of the contract requirements of Company A and agreed to meet them, but opted to fight me on several minor clauses when it came down to it. Most were solved without much conflict, but the major sticking point was in regard to uniforms. Our contract ensured we were given an allowance to pay for new uniforms and vouchers for steel-toe boots every year. When it came time for our new vouchers, they refused, citing that they'd given us a slight raise which could offset the cost of boots. I informed them that a cost of living raise didn't void the portion of the contract requiring them to provide vouchers for shoes, to which they responded they just hadn't figured out how to provide vouchers yet. After assurances, they would provide the vouchers as soon as they could work it out. I dropped the issue. Unsurprisingly, months later, they still hadn't provided vouchers for replacement shoes. It should be noted that this was a very large campus, and many of us walked several miles a day in these shoes, and the shoes were caked with chemicals and dirt and started to look pretty vile within a year. We had to wear the same work boots in office areas, and we had started to get complaints. I decided to lean into this. This is where malicious compliance begins. No new shoes? Fine, I'll rig them up to last longer. I went out and bought several rolls of the flashiest and most obnoxious duct tape I could find. I began to repair holes in my shoes with duct tape and extra fabric to the point that my hot pink shoes became easily recognizable. The safety team for the main company was so amused, they gifted me hot pink safety glasses and gloves to match. I also lent out my gaudy duct tape collection to any employee needing to upgrade their shoes. Suddenly, the complaints about our dirty shoes were replaced by complaints about obviously duct-taped shoes. Whenever we were asked, we'd tell both union and non-union coworkers that it was a small protest against the refusal to honor the shoe vouchers in the contract. The next year rolls around and still no shoe vouchers, but suddenly our uniform allowances were increased to $150 to allow for new steel-toed shoes to be purchased. After speaking to the union members, I agreed to allow that in place of the vouchers. I kept my duct tape collection permanently on display as a threat and would use it anytime safety equipment wasn't being replaced and required repair. Am I the jerk for refusing guardianship and questioning my dad's decision to have a kid at his age? I'm 37, female, married to a 37-year-old male. We have 4 kids ranging from ages 4 to 12. My dad is 65, male, and on his 3rd marriage. My mom is the same age as him. His second wife is 50, and his current wife is 40. He had 2 kids during his second marriage, who are 17 and 15, and now he has a 6-month-old. When the 15-year-old was born, my husband, fiancé at the time, and I were named in my dad's will that we would raise my siblings if the worst happened and they were orphaned. We were fine with this, and we are still fine with it. There is no doubt that if this scenario were to come to pass tomorrow, it would be extremely hard, but my siblings are now teenagers, so there would, at the very least, not be much physical hands-on care. Plus, the responsibility would only last, technically, for 3 more years. This is obviously not the case with a baby. If the worst happened tomorrow, we'd be starting all over. My husband and I are agreed on no more babies and have taken the necessary measures to ensure that, and with our youngest finally fully trained, we are thrilled with the diaperless future ahead of us. So my dad told us a few weeks ago that he updated his will and naturally named us as guardians for the baby. I said he'd better change it then, because absolutely not, and outlined the reasons above. Dad didn't take it well. He said it was really unfair that I was favoring some siblings over others. I reiterated that was not the case, though I do of course have a much closer relationship with my teen siblings than with my baby sibling. He's cute and all, but I've got my own kids to focus on. My personal situation is very different than it was 15 years ago. I told my dad to ask people on his wife's side of the family, and he doesn't want to because he doesn't feel they'd respect his wishes for raising the kid the way I would. I said I'm sorry, but I'm just not able to make this level of commitment. Then Dad started complaining that it's not fair. Due to his age, he really needs the assurance that his kid will be in good hands. So I quipped back. Due to his age, he shouldn't have gone and had another kid. Dad responded that was a nasty thing to say and hung up, and things have been strained ever since. I guess I could have been a little nicer, but I do stand by what I said. I'm not in a position to commit to this, and frankly, having a baby at his age was dumb, and he should have thought it through better. Am I the jerk for my refusal to be a guardian and for sharing my thoughts on my dad's choices? Not the jerk, and your dad is crazy to assume you'd be willing or able to take on that kind of responsibility in your mid-30s with a house full of your own kids. I would really like to know if his wife was consulted on this decision at all. Like, she's gotta know the odds are that she's outliving him, or he will leave her in 10 years for a younger model if he lives. So does she actually want her stepdaughter to raise her baby if her husband passes first and she passes on later? Does she agree about how her family raises kids? I was actually wondering, given the track record, will he be on wife number 4 in about 10 years, and will she be 30 at this time? If so, he will probably try and have another baby. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her dad? Please let us know. Old dudes getting with women who are young enough to be their daughters always gives me the heebie-jeebies. You write poor code and never fix anything. Background. I used to work for an IT services company working on a central government contract. We would develop the code, unit test it, and then hand it off to a dedicated test team who would test and sign off on the code before going to production. Once in production, the jobs would be monitored and responded to by a dedicated support team. This support team were all ex-government employees transitioned to the services company as part of the contract. They never developed any code themselves, but were happy to point fingers at anyone else to make themselves feel superior. The production system was massive and made up of many moving parts. Code releases were also based on dates pulled out of thin air, rather than being based on requirements or development times. As such, defects were inevitable. Defects were graded 1 through 5, with 1 being critical and 5 only being addressed if 1 through 4 were all gone. Category 5 was things like, clicking this button takes 5 seconds instead of 3. This meant that anything with a 5 was never looked at. The support team monitored production jobs out of hours. If a job failed, the first responder would be called. This meant a $50 call-out fee for him. He would then call someone else on his team to address the issue. This meant a $50 call-out fee for him also. A particular job had an issue where the underlying requirement was not clear and it would fail at 10 p.m. each day due to an unexpected value. The fix was to click restart and the job would recover itself and continue without any further failures. As this required no real intervention and didn't impact users, it was labeled with a 5. The support team liked this as it meant an extra $350 a week for the lead and $350 a week for the support guy, just for one of them to click a button at the same time each night. This had been happening for the previous 2 years, government, and netted them about $35,000 each in support payments so far. Malicious compliance. After a large release filled with incomplete requirements and unrealistic deadlines, we were called to a multi-team meeting to discuss the number of defects and how to reduce them. The support team leader took this opportunity to brown-nose leadership and tell everyone how it was all the development team's fault because we wrote poor code and never fixed anything, and how his team were carrying us and having to respond to regular out-of-hours outages. We were blindsided by this, and I was particularly annoyed because we were already under undue pressure and didn't need this Muppet making things worse. I knew about the 10 p.m. job and knew they were milking it, so I raised a new fake defect and labeled it as a Category 3 and linked it to roughly the same area as the Category 5 10 p.m. failure. I fixed the 10 p.m. failure code by basically editing an if statement so it would continue instead of failing. It took no more than 10 keystrokes. The new code was deployed, but I didn't tell the support team. The next day, I got a call from the team lead saying there was a problem with the 10 p.m. job as it didn't fail the night before, so must not have processed all of the data. He continued with, "We should test the code more thoroughly," when I stopped him mid-sentence and said, "Oh, that code. I noticed a problem when I was fixing something else, so I made a change to stop it from failing. I didn't want it to keep bothering you guys." He didn't know what to say, so I said goodbye and hung up. If he hadn't have been a Muppet, I would have let him keep his cash cow, but he chose poorly, and the cash cow vanished. Am I the jerk for itemizing my household bills and demanding my significant other pay his fair share now that his 3 teens have moved in with us? I, 33 female, have been with my boyfriend, 46 male, for almost 3 years. He moved in with me about 6 months after we started dating. Things were going quite well. He does not work as he is a disabled veteran and collects a pension. I work a decently paying job and make about $60,000 more per year than he does. He would give me a few $100s here and there towards food and bills when I would ask, and I paid my mortgage and the rest of the bills. He was paying about $1,200 a month in child support for his 3 girls who lived with their mom, now 15, 17, and 18. I have 2 girls, who are now 10 and 13, who live with me 60% of the time and live with their dad the rest of the time. About 6 months ago, His girl's mom decided she couldn't take care of them any longer. She had ruined their family home. No running water, septic was destroyed, holes in the floor, 5-gallon buckets used as toilets, etc. It was awful to discover, and at no point when the girls visited did they share the info with me. I don't know how he didn't know what was happening, but he says he didn't. At that time, the courts decided the girls needed to live with their father, who lives with me, obviously. I knew this would be a tough transition for all involved, so for the last 6 months, I've continued to pay for everything, and he's given me $500 a month towards their support. Food, bills, etc. Their mother has contributed nothing. Upon discovering that I was getting a bit behind with finances, I itemized my spending and determined that my costs have gone up about $1,700 a month since they came here, just regular bills, which doesn't include Christmas presents, clothes, salon trips, vacations, going out to eat, etc. that I have also paid for. I showed this to my boyfriend and asked that he started paying me an amount closer to the cost of the spending, at least the $1,200 he was paying in child support before they came here. He became very angry, accusing me of being money hungry and insinuating he was taking advantage of me. He then told me he would give me $750 a month towards bills. I expressed that if he felt he could support 4 people for less than what I was asking him to contribute on his own, then he should do that. He says I should be okay because it's for our family. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And what makes this feel worse is that I discovered my boyfriend's ex-wife also was dating a younger person with a good job, and that guy is now suing her for taking advantage of him. It almost hits too close to home, but I do love my boyfriend and his daughters, and I feel like he should contribute more to the support of his kids when I'm paying the bulk of our expenses. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You're being used. Cut off your financial support of your boyfriend and his kids. Stop buying the groceries, paying for their personal expenses, cell phones, car insurance, etc., and don't cover his or their debt. Your boyfriend needs to cover his and his kids' share of expenses for accommodations, utilities, groceries, and other shared household expenses. This means that he should pay at least half of rent and mortgage costs and 2/3 of utilities and groceries. You may need to stop buying their groceries if he won't pay you his share. You need to stop paying anything towards his or their luxuries. Don't pay for their spas, vacations, fast food, transportation, etc. If their parents won't pay, the kids can't have those luxuries. If your boyfriend wants to refuse to contribute, seriously reconsider having him live with you at all. Not the jerk for asking him to pay his fair share. You will be the jerk if you do not prioritize your own finances and the needs of your own kids. Every dollar he mooches from you is a dollar that isn't making your future and your kids' lives more secure. Love isn't enough. Am I the jerk for walking out over a chair? Okay, hear me out. For as long as I can remember in my family, almost any time I got up from my seat, someone would take it to either be funny or to claim it as if no one was using it. And as a teenager, it literally got to the point I brought my own folding chair so I could pick it up and carry it with me. If I left it where it was, someone would take it, then get mad when I wanted it back. As an example, on a holiday last year, I got up from my chair for a moment to help with something and came back to find a kid in it. And then the family berating me for wanting them to move. But I tell them that when a man owns and brings his own chair, they expect to be able to use it. I own a very nice folding chair that's comfortable and easily portable, and I pretty much use it at any family events because people are always scrambling for chairs. Well, the other day I went to a birthday party for my nephew, and like always, I brought my own chair. But at some point I had to use the bathroom. When I came back, my chair was gone, and everyone acted like they didn't know where it was. I said they had 1 minute to return it, or I was leaving. They laughed at first, but then realized I was serious as I started going for the door. Everybody told me to just calm down as it was just a joke. I said I don't care if they think I'm a stick in the mud. I wouldn't be bringing my own chair all the time if other people weren't always taking my seat when I get up. I don't think it's funny. I never did. My brother-in-law then pulled the chair out of where he had hidden it, and when I got it back, one of the legs was bent. I said it was not like this before, and how could he possibly have done this to a metal chair? He said he could fix it and tried to unbend it, but only made it worse. The chair is pretty much unusable now because the leg is warped and I don't want to risk putting weight on it. I told my brother-in-law he owes me $50 for the chair because that's what I paid for it new 2 years ago. He got mad and kept saying it was just a stupid chair. I said it was my stupid chair, and this wouldn't have happened if he wasn't so immature that he and everyone else had to mess with me for years about where I sit. Then I took my now messed up chair and walked out. My family has been blowing my phone up, saying that it's just a chair and to let it go. But I still want my brother to pay me back for it. Am I the jerk? They bully you for years, constantly conspire as a group to prevent you from sitting, hide and break your property, and insult and gaslight you when you attempt to set the smallest boundary. Am I missing anything? I would suggest not attending these get-togethers anymore. They can play musical chairs without you. Seriously, what do you actually get out of going to these things that is worth putting up with the bullying? Yes, it's not about a chair, it's about the bullying and disrespect. Not the jerk. Is your brother 12? Because this is the kind of BS my siblings and I used to do to our parents and each other when we were middle schoolers. Jokes are supposed to be funny. You have the patience of a saint, to be honest. I would have lost it at them and gone low contact or no contact a long time ago. I can't stand this type of juvenile behavior. Am I the jerk for making my husband get off his video game to take care of the baby? Our 9-month-old is teething and pretty fussy right now. I finally got her to sleep. I nurse her to sleep, so my husband couldn't help with that. He was playing an online game with voice, and I told him he needed to be more quiet because if he woke her up, he was taking care of her until she was ready to go back to sleep. If she wakes up, she wants to play for an hour or two before she'll settle back down. He said he wasn't being that loud, and to be fair, he was using a normal speaking voice, but I told him that she kept stirring and squirming. My rocking chair is in the living room where he has his PC. When she's fussy like this, she just needs to rock and cuddle for a while. If I put her down too early, she wakes up. He said he'd try to be quieter. He was using his headset, and it's pretty high-end, so it can easily pick up his voice. There wasn't an issue with him being heard in-game, but he kept forgetting to lower his voice, and the baby woke up. I waited for him to finish his mission, then I handed her to him and went into the bathroom with my laptop to play one of my games. He's mad and says I'm being a jerk because he wasn't being overly loud, and he wanted to get further in the game. But I warned him, when she's having a fussy night, we have to work around her. So, am I the jerk?
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.